What's going on, class? So this is Jay here. So, to talk about my final thoughts, wrapping up what I've learned about mass media and kind of how it's expanded my own horizons, I like to start off by saying that my original interpretation of mass media was it just related to either the internet, movies, TV shows, and maybe like podcasts, as that's like a new medium. But now, since taking this class, I could definitely say that my horizon's been expanded and my understanding has definitely increased. As now I've come to see mass media as not just the platforms that are used, but now I see that it morely relates to how it affects society as a whole, how it affects our culture, the way we see things, such as, sex, race, gender, identity, and the way we view different groups as a result of our viewing habits, and how the way like we use the technology and the way that entertainment plays such a role in the way that we think and just the way that we consume the mediums that ultimately affects the way like we run our day-to-day lives, and we it is and does so in such an unconscious way. For example, take the TV show Blackish, or the very popular TV show This Is Us. Both these TV shows present, I would say, a modern day view of what racial minorities feel like, what different family issues now involve, and they come as a way to present a different side of what typically society would view typically families that are similar in background to this. For example, Blackish, it features a highly successful family that's navigating the world as African Americans and really trying to, and you see a family that's really trying to stay connected to its roots and really trying to maintain their identity as they move up the social ladder. And it's typically not something that's very seen, a successful black family in which, you have doctors, you have successful people. And you see kind of like the way, the modern day struggle that they're going through. And it works to kind of give our current culture a different view of African Americans and just different social issues, whether that be political, because I know they did an episode in which case they looked at our current presidential race and they kind of reacted to it, and they did that to kind of like spread, their views of it coming from their backgrounds and what their viewpoints were, and to kind of give their side of the social issues that are affecting them. Next up, I also mentioned This Is Us, which is a very multi-dimensional family with many different values at play here. You see different things, allowing us to see multiple different perspectives from the eyes of multiple characters, such as modern day marital disputes, child raising, adoption, identity, and how all these different factors come to play a part in our everyday lives. And what this really does is it really changes the perspective of the viewers and really allows them to get a more in-depth view of social issues that otherwise they may not have seen. And by doing this, you further you tend to inoculate your audience, as the messages repeatedly seen in shows like Blackish and This Is Us, they have an effect in which case certain behaviors become normalized and certain viewpoints, they really start to be seen and understood from the point of view of the audience, and this in turn affects the way we see life, the way we see political issues, the way we see social issues, and just the way we view people in general and how we treat one another. And you begin to see the power of mass media and why others are tend to be concerned or cautionary about the effects it has on our standards of beauty, the way we see others, and the reason why in certain situations why certain ways that cultures or people are portrayed are so important, as many times that's an audience's first experience or exposure to a certain viewpoint, and that in turn affects the way that they see people, the way that they see themselves, and the way that shapes an audience's point of view, so to speak. And you can see why certain places are, certain countries and other parts of the world are very wary of allowing American movies as well as like American culture to be spread within their communities, as it does have an effect. It does have an effect on the way that you see yourself and the viewpoints. And oftentimes, Hollywood has an agenda, or at the very least, they're trying to spread a certain point of view through a story, through entertainment, and thus they're in many ways shaping your perception, which is why I stated earlier in the video that mass media has a very powerful effect on the culture that's viewing it. Now, something that actually surprised me, it was only briefly touched on actually in the textbook, but in the textbook it talked about, the cultural impact of podcasting, but only like had a very small section of it. But one thing I never considered until this semester is how much things like podcasts actually are now beginning to affect society. Because when you think about it, what a podcast is, or it's able to be, is it's a commentary. It's a way in which people from different viewpoints can interact with one another. It's a way for others to be able to reach an audience that without the advent of the internet, there would be no ability to reach those audiences. It's really a way to spread a perspective or an opinion across many different cultures and places within the world that you don't really see with any other medium, as it's not as restricted as television. Now, yes, television does definitely, as I mentioned before, have an effect on, culture and viewpoints, but with the internet now being kind of like a mainstreaming platform where it's like people now watch movies, TV shows, YouTube, on that, it's interesting to see how podcasting just has really blown up. And now you see in almost every industry, whether it's be finding a job, insurance, news, day-to-day life, whatever it is, you can see different groups of people kind of being connected based on similar interests and like similar ways of life. For example, you can find podcasts on comic books, video games, different religious affiliations, dating, just even like stuff like cleaning, what it's like to be working this type of field, whether it be insurance, whether it be television, murder mysteries. Like you can now, it's strange how like communities can now be built and developed just through like everyday interests and just forms of entertainment and just cultural values. And it's just interesting to be at a place and time where we're kind of seeing at its height, where no matter what the topic is, there can be a community around it, whether it be house cleaning, cooking, anything that, like anything that's, or rather was considered like just everyday things, we're now seeing like a variety of different perspectives on it, and it's just interesting to see like how that's unfolding and what that's going to lead to in the coming future. And I know that many people are a little nervous about like what mass media brings, because I know that many people nowadays see it as a way in which people are now becoming more lonely because they're turning to their social media now, or they're using that now to flex, so to speak. in which case, they're buying stuff they don't need just to show it to people and just to get the validation from, those around them rather than just doing it for their own personal benefits and like just kind of like the addictive properties that are presented with it. My perspective just tends to lean towards the fact that just like any new form of medium or any type of new media, there's always going to be its advantages and consequences. And oftentimes, what I'm seeing is all really mass media and anything we see on social media and things of that nature, it's really just revealing what was there before but wasn't really as seen. You know, with people posting things on social media or buying things just to show off. I mean, technically they would have did that anyway with people at the workplace, office, friend groups, whatever the case. And just like any other form of media, it's a tool that can be used for good or for bad. And really, I feel like in today's society, we're seeing a lot more good being done with it, especially if we really want to look for it. And of course, it's easier to to point out the bad things, but I'm feeling very optimistic about mass media because it's now giving people who otherwise would not have had a platform something that they can stand on, and it's allowing communities with different people from all over the world to really be able to come together and share in things that otherwise either nobody around them or they themselves, didn't find the value in. But now it's like you can connect with people who, who share similar views than you, and you know that it gives you a sense of connectivity because oftentimes a lot of people go through trials and tribulations which they feel that they're alone, but with things like mass media, it really allows for you to be able to see others who are going through something similar to you or who believe or have similar viewpoints as you, as well as different viewpoints. And it just allows for a broadening of horizons. And I really see that as a very big benefit going forward into the future and just seeing how I believe we're starting to see that people are being able to talk to one another. We're still seeing like very polarized points of views, but I believe now with the future of mass media at hand, I foresee greater innovations taking place. I see ways in which communities are becoming even more connected. Of course, you're going to have, some fallout from that. Sometimes, it's going to lead some people feeling socially isolated. There's addiction and different things like that. But as I said before, like any other tool, mass media can be used for good or, through self-sabotage, it can be used as a negative. But for me, I see that the coming advancements in the future and just the opportunities that it's going to give others, I believe that far outweighs any type of negative impact that's coming. And like I said before, different forms of media are going to affect the culture in many different ways in many different places. But overall, I would say that I'm optimistic, and I can now say that I now see mass media as more than just like technological advancements, such as movies, TV shows, and things I've mentioned before, but as platforms to give people different perspectives and to connect communities, and as a way of informing the way that we think and really just changing. Oh, sorry, not changing. I would say this. I would say as ways of shaping our culture and the way that we're going to view things in the future. With that being said, that's my perspective. Please give a comment, reply, and thank you guys for the phenomenal semester. Jay, signing out.